My name is Wilson, and I never imagined I'd be sharing something like this. For a few minutes I died. I left this world, and what I experienced changed me forever. This wasn't just an out-of-body experience, it was something far beyond human understanding. I met Jesus. He revealed things to me, things about our world, the future, and a massive shift coming in 2025 that will shake the very foundations of what we know. This message isn't just for me, it's for you, for everyone, and I have to share it because time is short. It all started like any other day. I woke up early, grabbed a quick breakfast, and headed out to work. The morning was clear, nothing felt off, no warning, no strange feeling, just another ordinary day. I remember checking my phone at a red light, just glancing at a message from my mum. The light turned green, and I started driving forward. I never saw the truck coming. The impact was violent beyond words. Metal twisted, glass shattered. My body was thrown like a rag doll. There was pain, but only for a moment. Then, silence. Everything slowed. I could hear my heartbeat, steady at first, then fading. And then, something pulled me. I was rising, floating above it all. I saw the wreck. My car was crushed beyond recognition. People ran toward it, screaming, trying to help. But I wasn't there anymore. I was above it, watching. I saw my body, but I felt no connection to it. The world I had known felt distant, as if I was seeing it through thick glass. Then, something shifted. The edges of my vision darkened. I felt an intense pull, stronger than anything I had ever known. It was like being drawn into a tunnel, but there was no fear, no pain, just movement. That was when I realized I was dead, but death wasn't what I expected. It wasn't cold, it wasn't empty, it was something else entirely. A force carried me forward, smooth, effortless, like gliding through space without resistance. The sounds of the crash, the shouts of bystanders, all of it faded. I was moving through a tunnel, but this wasn't just any tunnel, it was alive. The walls shimmered, shifting between light and shadow, almost as if they were made of pure energy. I didn't know if I was moving up or forward. Direction didn't seem to matter. And then I felt something, a presence. I wasn't alone. At first I couldn't see them, but I knew they were there. Beings, watching, guiding. Their presence was overwhelming, not in a frightening way, but in a way that made me feel small, like I was in the presence of something far greater than myself. Suddenly, the tunnel widened, and ahead of me was the most radiant light I had ever seen. It wasn't just bright. It was alive. It had depth, movement, intelligence. I could feel its warmth, but not like the sun. This was something else entirely. It wasn't just illuminating, it was drawing me in. But at the same time, there was something else. A darkness, not the kind you experience at night. This was different. It had weight, presence. It didn't just absorb light, it resisted it. It was as if two forces were at war, battling over every inch of space, and I was in the middle of it. The light pulled me forward, but the darkness wasn't passive. It reached for me, whispered to me, tried to fill me with doubt and fear. It wasn't a voice, but I understood it. It was full of lies, deception, temptation. Then a voice spoke. "Wilson, keep moving." The moment I heard it, the darkness recoiled. It shrank back, powerless against the authority in those words. I didn't hesitate. I moved toward the light. And as I did, everything around me shifted. I was about to enter something beyond anything I had ever known. The tunnel wasn't just a passage, it was a test, and with every step forward, I knew I was making a choice. The light ahead was welcoming, familiar, safe, and I had to keep moving. The darkness behind me felt alive, waiting, watching, searching for even the slightest moment of weakness. I didn't dare look back. The closer I moved toward the light, the more something inside me awakened. It wasn't just a feeling, it was as if memories were surfacing, but they weren't mine. It was knowledge, understanding, truths I had never been taught, yet suddenly knew. It was as if this place was unveiling secrets that had been hidden from me all my life. Then I saw them. At first, they were just shadows within the light, shifting, moving. But as I drew closer, their forms became clear. They weren't human, not in the way we think of humans, but they weren't frightening either. They were beings of light, radiant and filled with purpose. They didn't speak in words, yet they communicated in a way that went beyond language, and what they showed me changed everything. I saw Earth, but not as we see it. I saw layers, dimensions. I saw battles that weren't physical, but spiritual. I saw how everything in our world, every action, every decision, every prayer, was influenced by forces beyond our sight. It all mattered, far more than we could ever comprehend. And then I saw the battle intensifying. Dark forces were rising, trying to take control of nations, of people's minds, of the very fabric of society. But there was resistance, beings of light, angels. I knew them without needing to be told. They were fighting back, pushing against the darkness, but it wasn't easy. The balance was shifting. Then I saw something specific, a moment in time, a leader returning, a shift in the United States, one that would bring both hope and chaos. It wasn't just political, it was spiritual. Something deeper was unfolding. That's when I heard the voice again. This is why you were brought here, Wilson. You must understand what is coming. The tunnel wasn't just a passage, it was a revelation. And I hadn't even reached the end yet. As I moved forward, the beings of light became clearer. They surrounded me, watching, guiding. I felt no fear, only awe. Then everything around me shifted again. It was as if I had left the tunnel entirely and stepped into an open space, vast, beyond anything I could comprehend, and before me, like a living screen, my life appeared. But this wasn't just a memory, it was real. I saw myself as a child, my first steps, my first words. I saw my happiest moments, my greatest failures. But what struck me most wasn't just reliving my own experiences, it was feeling how my actions had affected others. I felt the pain I had caused, the joy I had given. Nothing was hidden. Then I saw something that took my breath away. Every moment I had ever prayed, every whispered plea, every desperate cry to God. I saw how each prayer sent ripples through the spiritual realm, shifting things beyond what I could see. None of it had been in vain. And then I saw what was coming. A storm, a shift, a return. Someone the world wasn't ready for. Jesus was about to reveal something that would change everything. As I stood there, overwhelmed by the life review, I heard it again, that voice. It wasn't just sound, it resonated through my very being. Wilson. He called my name. And in that instant, I knew. I turned, and there he was. I struggled to describe him in a way that does him justice. He wasn't just a man, though he had a human form. His presence was everything: love, authority, wisdom, eternity itself. His eyes, they held galaxies, and yet when he looked at me, it felt as if I were the only soul in existence. He already knew me, every thought I had ever had, every doubt, every fear. And yet there was no condemnation in his gaze, only truth, only love. "You have questions," he said. I hadn't spoken, but I did. 1,000,000 of them. I managed to ask just one. "Why am I here?" His expression remained the same. because the world is changing, and you must understand what is coming. I didn't fully grasp what he meant, but I could feel the weight of his words. Then he reached out his hand, and suddenly the space around us shifted. The light became even clearer, and before me a vision unfolded. It was Earth, but not as I had left it. Something was different. Something was coming. The sky itself seemed to tremble, as if it knew a great moment was near. Cities stood unchanged at first glance, yet beneath them, something was stirring. Spiritual forces were clashing, colliding in ways beyond human perception. And then I saw it. A timestamp burned into my mind. 2025. The world was at a crossroads. Nations teetered on the edge, tension crackling beneath the surface like an impending storm. Chaos wasn't just brewing, it was being orchestrated. There was a shift in power, and with it came a great shaking. I saw protests, people more divided than ever before. But this wasn't just political unrest, it was spiritual. A battle raged beyond what human eyes could see, and the forces of darkness were fighting harder than ever. Then my attention was drawn to a figure, a leader, one who had been cast out but was now returning. I didn't need an explanation, I knew it was Donald Trump. But his return wasn't just another political event, it was something far greater. Jesus allowed me to see beyond the surface of history, to witness what truly shaped the world. The decisions of world leaders weren't made in isolation. Unseen forces influenced every move. Some leaders were being used by darkness, while others, whether knowingly or unknowingly, were being positioned for something much bigger. The battle intensified. The enemy wanted complete control, but something was holding them back. And then I saw it. The prayers of believers rising like pillars of light, pushing against the darkness. This is why prayer is so important, Jesus said. Many do not see the war that is being waged, but it is real. I watched as angels moved, shielding those who stood firm in faith. But I also saw those who fell into deception, those who turned away from the truth. And as the events of 2025 unfolded before me, I saw a moment of decision. The world would have to choose its path. Then everything shifted again. I stood frozen, watching history unfold. I saw something I never expected, a deep division, but also a moment of opportunity. Trump's return wasn't just about politics, it was about what it represented, a disruption to an agenda that had been crafted over decades. Jesus spoke again. There will be those who resist, not just in the physical, but in the unseen realm. The enemy does not want this shift to happen. Dark forces were rallying. This wasn't about a single man, it was about the power shift his return symbolized, a direct challenge to the forces seeking to control the world. I saw it all, secret meetings, alliances formed behind closed doors, deals that would reshape the world but not for the better. Some leaders knowingly worked with darkness, others were being manipulated without realizing it. But then I saw hope. There were those rising against this agenda, not just Trump, but others. Some were still unknown, waiting for their moment, but when the time came, they would step into leadership, prepared for the battle ahead. Jesus showed me that 2025 would be a turning point, not just for America, but for the entire world. The church would have to make a choice, stand boldly or be swept away. The prayers of believers would determine how events unfolded. Then he looked at me with an intensity that shook me to my core. Tell them, Wilson. Tell them that this battle is not just of flesh and blood. They must be ready. The vision began to fade, but the knowing remained. Something is coming, and people need to prepare. As the scene dimmed, I felt my spirit tremble. I had seen things I never imagined, things that would change how I saw the world forever. But Jesus wasn't finished. He lifted his hand, and in an instant I saw deeper. Another layer of reality, hidden until now. It was as if I had been blind my entire life and was only now seeing the world for what it truly was. Every nation was engulfed in war. Not with weapons, not with armies, but with unseen forces, spiritual warfare, dark entities moved like shadows, whispering lies, sowing division, fueling chaos. I saw how governments were influenced, how decisions weren't just made by men, but by unseen hands working behind the scenes. But then I saw the other side, warriors of light, angels, but not just them, believers. Their prayers acted like shields, pushing back the enemy's influence. Some stood boldly, declaring truth, refusing to bow to fear. But others were silent. Their faith had been weakened, their voices stolen by the weight of the world. And that is where the battle truly lies. It has always been there, Jesus said, but now it is reaching its climax. In that moment I understood 2025 wasn't just another year, it was a year of a spiritual confrontation. The enemy wasn't satisfied with influence, he wanted total control. But God was raising up those who would stand in the gap. I saw churches. Some were ablaze with fire, united in prayer, pushing back against the darkness. Others had already fallen, hollow, empty shells with no power left in them. This is why I call my people to awaken, Jesus continued. Those who remain lukewarm will be swept away, but those who stand in faith will see my power move as never before. I looked again, and the future flashed before me. I saw persecution, trials, but also miracles. The power of God would pour out in unexpected ways. The weak would become strong. The overlooked would rise. This was a time of war, but also a time of hope. Then I felt it, a pull. I was being drawn back. My time in this place was ending, but I knew I had to share what I had seen. The world wasn't ready, but it needed to be. And then I saw something that broke my heart. How far many believers had drifted from true faith. Jesus allowed me to see into churches across the world. Some radiated light, their prayers rising like flames, reaching the heavens. But others were cold, lifeless, mere shadows of what they were meant to be. Many had traded the power of the Holy Spirit for entertainment and shallow words. They spoke of God but did not know Him. They preached to keep people comfortable, not to lead them to repentance. They do not understand the power of true prayer, Jesus said, his voice filled with sadness. I saw churches that had compromised, aligning with the world instead of standing on truth. Pastors who once spoke boldly now watered down their messages to avoid controversy. Congregations that once gathered in fervent prayer now spent more time debating over trivial matters. But then I saw another group, small but powerful. These were the ones who still prayed with authority, who still called upon God with sincerity. Their faith wasn't built on numbers, popularity, or comfort. It was real. It was costly. And because of that, their prayers were shifting things in the spiritual realm. Jesus looked at me and said, "The time is coming when they will have to choose. The comfortable church will not stand in what is ahead." Then he showed me what was coming next. Jesus extended his hand, and suddenly I saw prayer like never before. I had always thought of prayer as words spoken in faith, but now I understood it was so much more. Each sent ripples through the spiritual world, shifting things unseen. Some prayers were weak, filled with doubt, barely moving. Others were powerful, cutting through darkness like blades of light. I saw angels responding instantly to prayers of faith. When someone truly prayed in alignment with God's will, Their words had the power to activate movements in the heavenly realm. But then I saw something tragic. Prayers that went unanswered. Not because God wasn't listening, but because they were spoken without belief, without sincerity. The enemy fears a praying church, Jesus said. That is why he keeps them distracted, keeps them busy, keeps them from seeing what is truly happening. In that moment, I realized how much time I had wasted in empty prayers, how often I had spoken words without truly expecting anything to change. But I also saw how even the smallest prayer, when spoken in faith, could alter history. Then Jesus showed me something else. What was about to happen in 2025, and how prayer would be the key to everything. The vision shifted. I saw the world like never before, as if I was looking down from above, watching history unfold in real time. The year 2025 stood before me, and the earth trembled. Political unrest exploded. Nations were at a breaking point. Protests, financial collapse, unexpected disasters, everything happening at once. A storm of confusion engulfed the world, but at the center of it all was a battle. Not of flesh and blood, but of spiritual forces. I watched as world leaders made decisions, some knowingly aligning with darkness, others completely unaware they were being used for an agenda beyond human understanding. Then Jesus spoke. The world believes they are in control, he said, but they do not see the hand that moves behind them. My people must discern the times. That's when I saw it. This wasn't just about politics, it was about influence over nations, over the very soul of the world. Demonic forces were gathering, determined to stop what was coming. But then prayer warriors began to rise. Their prayers became a shield, breaking chains, pushing back the darkness, standing against the enemy's plans. Then Jesus said something that made my heart race. The time of division is coming. Those who know the truth will stand, but those who remain blind will fall into deception. The world was about to shift in a way few were prepared for. Jesus looked at me, his gaze filled with urgency. Tell them to prepare. Then I saw America. Once a beacon of light, now struggling under the weight of division and deception. The enemy had worked tirelessly to weaken the nation from within, turning people against each other, making them forget their foundation. But then I saw something else, a spark. It started small, but it grew. Prayer movements, hidden in homes, in churches, even in workplaces, people gathering in secret, calling upon God with sincerity. Revival wasn't coming from the big platforms, it was rising from the unknown, the overlooked. Then Jesus spoke again. If my people will humble themselves and pray, I will move. But they must act now. Then he showed me what would happen if they did not. I saw darkness spreading across nations, waves of fear gripping people's hearts. But worse than that, I saw silence from those who should have spoken. The time to be passive is over, Jesus said. The time of separation is here. Light and darkness will no longer exist side by side. My people must choose. The vision began to fade. I felt myself being pulled back. But I knew I had to warn people. The world was about to change, and they needed to be ready. As the vision of America and the world faded, Jesus' expression grew even more serious. His voice carried weight, like thunder wrapped in love. "Wilson, there is little time left," he said. "What is coming cannot be stopped, but my people must be prepared." I felt an overwhelming urgency, like the entire universe was holding its breath. Then Jesus showed me what would happen if the church remained asleep. I saw people walking through life as if everything was normal, unaware that the ground beneath them was already shifting. Some were distracted, entertainment, social media, daily worries. Others were so consumed by fear that they refused to seek the truth. And then there were those who had given up entirely, choosing comfort over conviction. Then Jesus lifted his hand, and I saw the enemy's plans unfolding, darkness pushing forward, trying to erase the light. But there was still hope, because in the midst of it all, there were those who stood firm, praying, declaring God's promises. Jesus turned to me. They must know that the battle is not lost, but they cannot fight with their eyes closed. I understood then. Many believers had become passive, expecting others to fight for them. They had forgotten their authority, their power in prayer. The enemy wasn't afraid of lukewarm faith. He was afraid of a church that knew its identity. Then Jesus spoke again, and what he said sent chills through me. The next few months will determine the course of the years ahead. If my people rise up, they will see my hand move in ways they never imagined. But if they remain silent, if they do not pray, the weight of what is coming will be unbearable. My heart pounded. I wanted to ask what exactly would happen, but I already knew. This wasn't just a prediction. This was a warning. The future was being written by the choices people were making now. Then everything around me began to fade. I felt a pull, like gravity, suddenly took hold of me. The light, the voices, the presence of Jesus, it all began to slip away. No, wait! I wanted to say, but before I could, I was gone. I was falling fast. The warmth of heaven vanished, replaced by pain. I was back. My body felt heavy, foreign. My chest burned as I gasped for air. Then sound, the beeping of medical machines, voices, movement. I forced my eyes open and saw it, a hospital ceiling. For a moment I couldn't process where I was. It felt like I had lived an entire lifetime in just a few minutes. And now I was here, trapped in flesh again. Doctors and nurses rushed around me, frantic. One of them gasped when she saw my eyes open. "He's back," she whispered. I tried to speak, but my throat was dry. My mind struggled to catch up. Was it real? Had I imagined it? And then I felt it, an undeniable presence, a lingering touch of heaven still within me. I turned my head, and for just a brief second I saw something, someone. Standing in the corner of the room, a being of light, watching, and then gone. Tears filled my eyes. I wasn't crazy. I hadn't imagined it. I had been there. I had met Jesus, and I had been sent back. But why me? I didn't know. But one thing was clear. The message I had received wasn't just for me. It was for everyone. The world needed to hear what was coming. The days after my recovery were a blur. The doctors had no explanation. I had been clinically dead for over 5 minutes. Yet here I was. No brain damage, no lingering effects. They called it a miracle. But I knew better. It wasn't just a miracle, it was a mission. I wrestled with the weight of what I had seen. I wanted to tell people, but who would believe me? Who would take me seriously? Who would listen to a man who died, came back, and claimed to have spoken with Jesus? And then I heard his voice again, not out loud, in my spirit. "Speak, Wilson." I couldn't stay silent. I had seen too much, felt too much. The warnings Jesus gave weren't meant to be hidden. They were meant to prepare people for what was ahead. So here I am, writing this message to you. I don't care if people doubt me. I don't care if they mock me. I don't care if they call me crazy, because the truth is, I was there. I saw the battle, the forces at work. I saw the war that is already raging in the spiritual realm, and I saw what's coming. 2025 is not just another year. It's a shift, a test, a defining moment in history. The enemy is moving, but so is God. The question is, will his people wake up in time? This message is not just for believers. It's for anyone who has ever wondered if there's more to this life. It's for those who feel the tension in the air but can't explain why. It's for those who sense something coming but don't know what. Jesus is real. Heaven is real. Prayer is real. And the battle is real. You must decide where you stand. I have done my part. I have spoken. Now it is up to you. Will you listen? Will you pray? Will you be ready? Because whether we are prepared or not, the shift is coming. Since returning to this world, I have carried an overwhelming burden, not just for myself, but for everyone who is blind to what is unfolding. This isn't about politics, religion, or personal beliefs. It's about truth. It's about what I saw. Jesus made it clear. This is a time of decision. The world is at a crossroads, and each of us must choose where we stand. The enemy is working overtime to distract, deceive, and divide. He wants us numb, indifferent, too consumed by daily life to see the bigger picture. But I saw the bigger picture. I know what is coming. Many people will ignore this message. They'll laugh, call it nonsense, go back to their routines. That is exactly what the enemy wants. But those who have ears to hear, you already feel it. Something is happening. Something is shifting. Jesus didn't show me these things so I could sit in silence. He commanded me to speak. And now I am pleading with you. Wake up. Look around. See the world for what it truly is, not what they tell you it is. Pray like you have never prayed before. Seek the truth and you will find it. Do not be fooled, not by the distractions, not by the lies, not by the false peace they offer. Prepare yourself, not just physically, but spiritually, because when the time comes, it won't be the strong, the wealthy, or the powerful who stand firm. It will be those who are rooted in truth, those who have built their foundation on God. Jesus told me the time is short, and now I'm telling you, you can ignore this, you can dismiss it, but you cannot say you weren't warned.